ら、私だけじゃないじゃない。
Welcome to Hamburgers and Horror, the home of meat, monsters, and Mike. I'm Noah Hook, and today we're looking at Audition. This 1999 Japanese horror film follows a lonely widower who decides to start dating again. Aided by a film producer buddy, he hosts an audition for a fake film in order to find the woman of his dreams. He becomes enthralled with a shy young woman named Asami, but he soon worries that the woman of his dreams is actually a nightmare. Audition was directed by the legendary Takashi Miike, who has directed over 120 films and is still going strong today. His movies run through a variety of different genres, ranging from violent and bizarre to dramatic and family-friendly. He's a controversial figure in the Japanese film industry, with several of his films being heavily criticized for their use of extreme graphic violence. Just a few of his weird and wonderful abominations include 13 Assassins, Visitor Q, Gozu, Imprint, The Happiness of the Katakuris, and my personal favorite, Ichi the Killer. Audition is definitely Miike's most mainstream and well-known film, at least here in the US, but it's still chock full of his signature style and attitude. The story was adapted from Ryu Murakami's novel by the same name, which was chosen by Omega Productions to adapt as it would contrast heavily with the supernatural films of the time like The Ring. Still haven't covered The Ring on the channel. The screenplay was written by Miike's frequent collaborator Daisuke Tengen, who wrote 13 Assassins and Imprint. Miike brought on several of his other favorite collaborators for Audition as well, including Hideo Yamamoto as cinematographer, Koji Endo as the composer, and Yasushi Shimamura as the editor. Also, I wanted to note that I watched a lot of interviews in preparation for this to try to get all of the name pronunciations right, but I have a feeling there will be a moment or two where it's just not up to par, so I do apologize in advance for that. Audition stars Ai Shina of films like Eureka and Tokyo Gore Police as Asami, Ryo Ishibashi from The Grudge and Suicide Club as Shigeharu, Jun Kunimura from Kill Bill and The Wailing as Yasuhisa, and Tetsu Sawaki from Bright Future and Harmful Insect as Shigehiko. Audition premiered at the Toronto Film Festival in 1999 before hitting Japanese theaters, but it actually got little attention there until its international reputation grew. It made about $400,000 at the box office, and on a small budget of only $250,000, that was pretty much a monetary success. The film has been met with a wide variety of critical responses, but the majority of them have been very positive. Viewers have loved its slow burn, shocking ending, and mix of psychological and physical horror. It currently has an 83 and 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, as well as a 3.8 on Letterboxd, so it's clear that Audition has a lot of love. Thank you so much to my patron Jason for requesting Audition for me to review. I have been itching to cover some Miike on the channel since I started it in 2020. And if you haven't seen Audition before, I urge you to stop my video right now and go watch it for yourself. It's the kind of film you should absolutely see unspoiled the first time. But with all of that said, it's probably time we get started. I hope y'all are ready to go kiwi 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 kiwi, because we're watching Audition. The movie opens with a young boy named Shigehiko visiting his sick mother at the hospital. Ah damn, she's dead. His father Shigeharu watches as his wife Ryoku passes away, and the grieving pair head home. We jump ahead 7 years where Shigeharu and his now teenage son are fishing for sea breams. Ooh, damn, can I get a plate? The two chat about fish ovaries before Shigehiko asks his father why he hasn't considered remarrying. Natural conversation transition. Shigeharu doesn't have an answer for his son, and that night he finishes dinner and does dishes alone. The next day, an employee at his TV production company asserts that everyone in Japan is lonely, although a different one tells Shigeharu that she's getting married. he's not very excited for her. The TV industry has been hit hard by a recession, and his friend Yasuhisa's film production business has been struggling as well. He's also tired of the loud, confident women plaguing the streets of Japan, and Shigeharu mentions that he's thinking of remarrying. He doesn't like the idea of an arranged marriage, he just wants a mature woman with an accomplished career who likes to play the piano, sing, and dance. Oh, easy peasy, I know like 10 of those. But above all, he wants someone with confidence. Yasuhisa has an idea for him to find the woman of his dreams. They'll hold an audition. It's in the title. The boys plan to use one of their scripts as a ploy to attract the best and brightest single ladies around, although Yasuhisa predicts 10 out of 1,000 women will meet the requirements and also be willing to marry him. They put out an enchanting radio ad promising fame and fortune to their next big star, and we get a glimpse of our future leading lady. Shigeharu looks over their initial applicants, and he can't bear to look his dead wife in the eyes. Yasuhisa advises him to choose 30 women for the audition, reminding him to think about more than their looks. Then, a particularly pretty applicant named Asami catches his eye. She has 12 years of ballet training, but gave up her dream after an injury when she was 18. She lost the thing she loved most, which she describes as accepting death. She's learned that to live is to accept death gradually approaching, which is why she took the big leap to try giving acting a shot. Meanwhile, Shigehiko is chatting up a young lady about dinosaurs. Hell yeah, if she likes dinos, she's a keeper. Oh, by the way, has everyone met Gongu? Good boy, Gongu! Alright baby, audition time. The boys interview a series of lovely women who are asked a series of invasive questions by Yasuhisa. They discuss their hobbies, their father's occupations, their sexuality, and show off a special talent. Some are more impressive, more weird, and more open-minded than others, but it isn't until Asami enters that Shigeharu perks up. Hell, she's the first one he actually bothers to ask a question, as he wants to know more about her ballet and broken hip. Trauma dump, girlie, give us all the trauma. He admits that he was very impressed with her writing, acknowledging her as very mature and as someone who takes life seriously. Ding ding ding, I think we have a winner! Yasuhisa is nervous that he's put his eggs in one basket too early, saying something about Asami makes him nervous. That night, Shigeharu finds the liquid courage to call her up, and the two plan to get lunch the next day. But Yasuhisa called up a music producer she used as a reference, Mr. Shibata, only to learn he went missing 18 months ago and hasn't been found. Ah well, probably isn't anything to worry about, huh, Shigeharu? He does ask her about Shibata at lunch, and Asami explains that she doesn't actually know him and lied to make it seem like she had some professional recognition. Well, I mean, dude's a bona fide liar, so he doesn't mind a little white lie, and they have a nice meal together. She asks if they can do this again, and Shigeharu hands out them digits. He believes he's found his match and declares that the search is over and they can cancel the movie. But Yasuhisa still finds it hard to believe a woman that is actually so perfect just fell for their scheme so easily. He can't find any corroboration about where she works. In fact, he can't find a single person who knows her. Shigeharu is confident in his judgment, but he does promise to take some time before moving things too quickly. We get a peek at Asami's lovely home, which has very little besides a phone and a very big sack. Shigeharu stops himself from calling Asami a couple times in an attempt to take things slow, but he ultimately cracks. It seems Asami has literally been sitting by the phone since their first date, and fuck, is there a person inside of that big ass bag? She picks up pretending to be caught off guard by his call, and the two get drinks that night. He asks about her family and the bar she works at, and she describes her family relationship as average and her boss as nosy, so it probably wouldn't be best for him to visit her there. Shigeharu partially comes clean about the film not moving forward, although he doesn't explain that it was never gonna happen. Asami doesn't mind, as the opportunity allowed her to meet him. She discusses her personal struggle to find meaning most days, but he assures her that one day she'll look back and find much beauty in her life. Asami's never met a man so comforting, supporting, and accepting. He drops her off and she promises to call him next time, and I have a feeling she'll keep her word. Shigehiko and his dino pals have noticed his father is much happier and deduces that he found himself a girlfriend. He explains that she's only 24 but is quite wonderful, and he plans to propose soon. Sounds a bit hasty to me, but you do you, King. Shigehiko is equally supportive and simply happy to see his dad is in love. Shigeharu and Asami go on a little weekend getaway, which is where he hopes to propose. He suggests a few options for dinner, but Asami wants some sausage tonight. But first she wants to show him her body, as she has several large scars that he fears he'll dislike. She claims to have accidentally burnt herself when she was a child. She tells him to love her and nobody else, which Shigeharu pledges to do. That night the two make sweet sweet love, but in the morning Asami is nowhere to be found. He doesn't know where she lives and she isn't answering the phone, and Yasuhisa takes this as a sign to forget about her. Shigeharu isn't willing to part with her so easily though. He heads to the ballet academy Asami was once a student at, but the place is all boarded up. He breaks in and finds an old man playing the piano who is apparently Asami's old teacher. Shigeharu asks for his help in contacting her, but the creepy old bastard does not strike me as the helpful type. In a flashback, we see that he tortured Asami at the ballet studio, using his burning incense to scar her thighs when she was a little girl. Looks like karma came back around though, as the pervert now wears prosthetic feet. Next, Shigeharu visits the bar she claimed to work at, only to learn it's been closed for more than a year. The owner was brutally murdered, but the neighbor does remember a woman named Asami who used to work there. Apparently the owner was dating some music producer, and she was dismembered in her own bar. Even stranger, the police found 3 extra fingers, an extra ear, and an extra tongue when they recovered the body. Oh, hello there! While the boys are out, Asami breaks into their home, where she comes across a photo of Ryoku and drugs Shigeharu's liquor. Bro comes home and immediately pours himself a glass, and after a few sips, Shigeharu begins to stiffen up before collapsing. A flashback to one of their dates tells us some hard truths we didn't know before, and it's also a bit unclear if this info was actually shared or not. When her parents divorced, she was sent to live with her abusive aunt who cut, burned, and bruised her. A doctor finally raised concern when she broke Asami's shoulder, at which point she moved back in with her mom. Her mom had remarried and the new stepfather hated her. He was disabled and never left the house, so she would silently hide in a dark room until her mother came home. In a suspiciously red restaurant, she shares that ballet is what kept her from ending it all, as it purified her ugly feelings. Ah yes, we are in some kind of hallucination, as now Shigeharu is introducing Asami to the kid version of Shigehiko and his dead wife. Ryoku warns him not to marry her, and Asami gives him some slop top. Oh wait, now she's that one employee getting married, and we learn that Shigeharu and her hooked up once. She thought she was special to him, but it sounds like that wasn't the case. Oh no, now he's imagining Shigehiko's girlfriend Suzuki, but he does stop her from filleting him. He trips over that mysterious sack, and out from it crawls a man who's missing 2 feet, 3 fingers, an ear, and a tongue. He watches as Asami vomits into a dog bowl to feed the butchered man, and the monster foot man joins the party as well. He threatens to punish her again if she doesn't dance, but it looks like she wants the punishment now. We watch as she wraps a wire around the dance instructor's neck and she saws that fucker clean off. But back in reality, Asami emerges in a super scary kinky outfit. Oh, damn it, she killed Gangu! She tells him that he's paralyzed but will still be able to feel everything, and she injects him with more to make sure the effect doesn't wear off. Mike fucking loves his tongues, doesn't he? Oh, a drop cloth is never good. Shigeharu stares at the camera while Asami removes his clothes, also chastising him for his poor treatment of women in the film industry. Sorry guys, from here on out I won't be able to show you much. YouTube fucking hates this movie. She whips out a big box of needles, another Mike staple, and starts sticking them in his torso. Oh my god, he looks like a porcupine. She uses a pair of needles to force his eyes open, saying extreme pain is the only way to understand your own mind. She threatens to torture Shigehiko as well, noting that he loves his son despite vowing to only love her. She has no one, but he has others, and she doesn't want to simply be someone's other. She wants to be their everything. She says all men are the same and refuse to willingly give themselves to a single person, but it's much harder to abandon her without feet. Here comes the moment you've all been waiting for, as Asami uses her wire saw to slowly cut through his ankle. She yeets the foot away and gets started on the second, but Shigehiko arrives home before she can finish. Shigeharu struggles to move and helplessly watches as Asami sneaks up on his son. But then he wakes up in the seaside hotel, all of this seemingly being one big nightmare. Hey, good to have you back, left foot. We missed ya. She accepts his apparent marriage proposal, declaring that she is the luckiest girl at the audition. The two fall asleep peacefully, only for Shigeharu to awaken back to his horrifying reality. Asami attempts to spray Shigehiko with something that will presumably paralyze him too, but the little lad kicks her ass down the stairs. Ooh, girl, your neck ain't supposed to do that. Shigeharu scoots his way to the hall as Shigehiko calls the police, and the movie ends as Asami repeats one of her previous lines about how accepted he makes her feel.
青山さんみたいに暖かくて私の気持ちを包んで
And that's Audition. Oh, this film gets better with every watch. It's such an effective example of a slow burn and a bait and switch. When people first hear about Audition, it usually involves the extreme graphic violence, so people probably go in a lot of the times not expecting the slow burn psychological horror that it really is. And the same could be said for Mike as well, as he's much more known for action, brutality, and an excess of all things taboo. This is Mike at some of his most controlled, and I find it to be an incredible exercise in restraint. The comparatively normal, almost rom-com setup to the film lulls the viewer into a false sense of comfort, and it's not until we meet the footless fella and see the severed tongue that we truly understand where this fucked up train is heading. And I love how ambiguous the final 20 minutes or so are, as it becomes so unclear what was real, what was told as a story, what was a dream, what was in Asami's head, and what was in Shigeharu's head. They're both such unreliable narrators, and we're seeing things from both of their points of view at times. We're seeing a combination of Asami's trauma and her own sick fantasies as they are merging with Shigeharu's guilty conscience, shame, and fear. The film does a great job of illustrating the loneliness and isolation that Shigeharu feels, as well as the larger sentiment that many Japanese men at the time were feeling. Through Shigeharu and Yasuhisa, we get an idea of the absurd laundry list of expectations for a potential match, as they never for a moment ask what the man in the relationship brings to the table. The men clearly aren't lonely because they are lacking in any way. It's because these pesky women have gotten too confident, independent, and have given up on the traditions and responsibilities that make for a good housewife. The women have to prove that they are accomplished in their careers, are confident but not too confident, come from respectable families, but are also supposed to be sexy and mysterious, but not be whores, I guess. I mean, after all, it's Asami's headshot that initially gets Shigeharu's attention. There have been long-held discussions on whether Audition is a feminist film, whether it's misogynistic, whether it's both, and sorry, I'm not gonna be the one to give a really correct, concrete answer today. I think there's a million little details in this film you could pull meaning out of, but if anything, I believe the film doesn't have a super overt political stance on feminism, but I do think it's an intimate look into the male-female dynamics of the time, and a big part of that is just looking at the ways that women are mistreated, so there's definitely feminist points to it. But there's so much specific context to this film taking place in late 90s Japan that need to be taken into consideration, which I'm truly just not an expert on either. But from what I've researched, women were gaining more independence and entering workforces they were previously excluded from. The country was facing serious economic struggles, which are specifically affecting the two leading men in this film. 1999 was one of the final years of what was dubbed the lost decade in Japan because the economy was just so shitty. I can't complain too much as a lot of the greatest films, anime, and manga of all time were made directly as a result of this horrible period, but it was definitely a tough time to say the least. I'm getting more conceptual than literal now, but men were losing power on multiple fronts. The future was uncertain, if not outright terrifying. Shigeharu is looking for someone to build a future with, to ride out the tough times with, and hopefully make them not so dreary. But he was so busy thinking of Ryoko in the past and the woman of his dreams in the future that he wasn't paying enough attention to what is happening in the present. He was enchanted enough by Asami's tragic, poetic backstory and felt only she could understand his own unspoken pain, but he made two fatal mistakes in not sharing his own truth with her and projecting his own dreams onto her. Shigeharu stopped really looking and listening and simply saw and heard what he wanted to, blinding himself to the spider whose web he was crawling deeper into. So no, Shigeharu isn't a loud, in-your-face, sexist piece of shit, but he's depicted as one of many who view women as less and think of them as objects to fulfill their own dreams and desires. I wouldn't go so far to say that the punishment fit the crime, but Asami inserted herself as his judge, jury, and executioner. Bear with me, it's kind of a weird comparison, but she kind of functions like Godzilla. She is a monster created by the arrogance, power, and violence of men, and she's come back for vengeance. Asami's lifetime of abuse is given to us in little breadcrumbs, and neither we nor Shigeharu are prepared for the full truth due to our preconceived notions of what a serial killer looks like. How can this reserved, mousy, petite Japanese woman possibly be a threat? Asami is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and Shigeharu wandered right into her den. She is a warning to men to catch up, check their assumptions and expectations, be watchful and careful, be kind and truthful. What goes around comes around, and you never know when a pretty face with a wire saw may come to give you your just desserts. All in all, Audition is a psychologically terrifying and physically brutal film. It slowly shifts from a meat cute to a meat slicer, providing some haunting images, depraved acts, and cunning twists and turns along the way. I consider it to be one of the very best J-horror films of all time, and one that every horror fan, yes even you squeamish ones, should absolutely go and see at least once. Well, that's about it. Thank you so much to my patron Jason for requesting Audition for me to review. It was so much fun to cover, and I hope y'all enjoyed it as well. And remember, you too can request movies for me to cover on the channel by becoming a patron. A link is down below. But what did y'all think of Audition? Was it too much for you? Was it too slow for you? Let me know down below. I'd love to chat about it. Also, let me know if you have any other Japanese horror recommendations. I'd say I've seen a lot of the big known ones, but I'm not super well versed in the subgenre, so I'd love to see more. But other than that, be sure to tune in 2 weeks as we check out another patron request. Thank you all so much for joining me, and an extra thank you to my patrons. As always, I'm Noah Hook, and thanks for watching Hamburgers and Horror. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching my review of Audition. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up with all my horror reviews. And if you want to help support the channel further, you should check out my Patreon account. You'll be able to vote for future movies and franchises I cover on the channel. Thanks y'all.